Hey Kennedina Daddy here. I did it. I know it. These kinds of positive statements are said to actually lower your brain pressure. It's already midsummer, and before we knew it, the monsoon season ended, and now we're entering the time when irritability levels are on the rise. So, in these days where managing our condition requires a lot of energy, I feel like Canada is maybe in a state where everyone is angry. Do you ever think about how often you get angry? It's not just about expressing anger outwardly, but also feeling a lot of anger inside without being able to express it. When we think of getting angry, we might imagine someone yelling loudly, but it could also be in the form of irritation, complaints, or dissatisfaction. Let's just call all these forms of anger or rage. The reason I brought this up is simple. I felt like it was right. Lately, I've been hearing a lot about how people are getting angrier online, or from people around me. If you just go to a bookstore, there are quite a few books on how to manage this anger. But hey, we're all in a pretty dangerous situation right now. If we don't properly control this anger, people are bound to make more mistakes, and it can even have a negative impact on brain development. As some shocking research results suggest, that's why many people choose the easiest way to avoid facing this anger-inducing situation, going into their rooms and minimizing interaction with others, which is considered the most comfortable and convenient. But the truth is, this comfortable state doesn't last long. Since we're all connected to society, people around us, and everything else through smartphones, isolating yourself in a room becomes meaningless. If this state continues, eventually you'll end up being the type of person who gets angry at themselves. And that's definitely not a good outcome. So things are happening, and so eventually negative emotions like anger and frustration. How am I supposed to control all that? Today, I'm gonna break it down for you, with insights from the renowned neuroscientist, Cato Daushinari. He's got some tips on how to deal with those temper tantrums in your brain, and I'll add my 2 cents on top of that. First off, why do people get angry? Right? There are all these explanations based on biology and psychology, but in neuroscience, we say anger is like the brain screaming that it can't take it anymore. People often express their anger like, why does my boss always say ridiculous stuff? Like work to death and doesn't even care about what I do when I get home. My family just makes things worse by nagging me about stuff. I don't even know what's trendy anymore. Is that really fun? We say these things a lot, or hear them a lot, right? And the common thread in all these phrases is that they're all totally real. Juan is always someone like an opponent or the world, at least to me. The person who caused this anger is not me, but someone else. But the problem here is the next step. The moment I decide that I can't control this situation by myself, my brain gets overwhelmed by the fact that it can't handle it, and I start feeling extreme dissatisfaction and anxiety. It's actually the brain saying that I can't handle the current situation. So anger is actually a way for my brain to let me know that I'm in a tough situation. It's like an emergency button inside an elevator protecting yourself. Looking at it from the brain's perspective, it's a bit more detailed and professional, but it's really helpful for controlling anger. It's not difficult at all, so if you follow along with me, it should be good. One of the concepts the author is presenting is the concept of the brain branching out, like it has addresses with numbers assigned to them. It's simple, grouping together nerve cells in the brain that perform the same function, and giving them each a number. Alright, so there are a total of 8 brain zones, or brain addresses here. The first one is the brain zone where decisions are made based on information. The second one is the communication brain zone, responsible for language and speaking. The third one is the understanding brain zone, where information is processed and understood. The fourth one is the movement brain zone, related to body movements. The fifth one is the auditory brain zone, where sounds are processed. The sixth one is the visual brain zone, where things seen with the eyes are processed. The seventh one is the memory brain zone, used for storing and recalling information. And finally, there's the emotional brain zone, where emotions like anger or joy are expressed. So, right before we lose our cool, our brain is in a state where it feels like it can't handle all of these brain zones from 1 to 7. To make it easier to understand, Think of it like this first. The decision-making brain zone is in charge. When you're in a situation and you just don't know what decision to make, your brain responsible for language is like, I have no idea what to say. So you're basically raising a white flag, right? And then the brain in charge of understanding is like, what the heck is this? I don't get it at all, and raises a white flag too. So all these different parts of your brain are just throwing in the towel, and when all 7 of them surrender, that's when everything falls into place. But even though we try to think positively, the stress just piles on and on. And that's when the signal goes to brain number 8, where anger comes in. And then anger gets passed down to brains 1, 2, and 3, and you end up lashing out, getting annoyed, sulking, ignoring, getting a mean look on your face, or even acting out violent. The important thing to remember here is that feeling anger in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just a way to release pent-up emotions. So basically, I've always thought of anger as a way to protect myself, but after studying the brain more, it turns out that's not the case. Every single person, all 100 of them, will get angry at some point, excluding situations where anger is really necessary. People who habitually get annoyed complain without hesitation, and always think negatively instead of positively are living based on anger. These people's brains are in a pretty dangerous state. The author says that the more you get angry, the more your brain makes mistakes. And by mistakes, I don't mean dropping a cup or getting an easy question wrong. I'm talking about suddenly posting hateful comments online or on social media, breaking up with someone in a fit of anger, or impulsively spending money for no reason. These actions, which you would never do in a calm state, are considered mistakes of the brain by the author. People who habitually get angry and annoyed actually have an excessive amount of blood flowing to their brain, which results in extreme energy consumption. So, like, my ability to focus on other things is seriously lacking, and because of that, my judgment is also not as good as when I'm calm. When my judgment is on the decline like this, they say that it lasts for like 30 minutes to an hour after sensing anger. In other words, during this 30 minutes to an hour until the anger subsides, you really shouldn't do anything at all. But if you can't wait and rush to make a judgment or take inappropriate actions, the situation can actually get worse. And it doesn't end there. They say that if this anger continues to build up, your brain stops growing. I mean, I'm already an adult, so my brain is fully developed, right? Nope. Thanks to the brain's plasticity, even after becoming an adult, we can continue to level up our brains regardless of age. The brain grows by extending neural connections, When can you feel this? It's like the moment when you feel like, I got it, I did it. That's when these connections are forming. And the neurons are connecting in new ways. So when you feel like you've achieved something, that's basically the moment. Your brain is in a stress-free state, which means your brain is efficiently consuming oxygen. But for people who easily get angry,